Welcome once again to the Redlining Podcast. It's exciting. We've got another huge international act, Richard Parker, who's way to my right. He's massive. We're not even going to dig around telling jokes at the beginning of this one because we've got someone very special on the show today. He's the trance genius that is Rich Mowatt. Welcome to the show, also known as SOLARSTONE.
SOLARSTONE in the house.
Where'd that name come from, bro?
You really want me to know that? Yeah, I mean, you really want me to say that?
I do.
Yeah, it's a boring story.
No, please.
No, it's okay. It's an okay story. So many years ago, I was originally in a band called the Space Kittens, and we made like acid disco music. And we had this new track, The Calling, which was the first SOLARSTONE single, and we sent it down to Hooge Tunes, and the main guy, Hooge, was Jerry Dickens, and he said, guys, you need a new name for this project because this is trance, this is a different sound, so you need to come up with a new name. Okay, fine. So he gave us 2 weeks to come up with a new name, in which time we failed. So he phoned us up and he said, guys, have you got a new name? No, we didn't. And he said, well, look, we're doing the artwork now for the new single, so you need a new name. You've got 20 minutes. If you don't think of a new name in 20 minutes, I'm going to call you The Pleasure Tendency, which is some kind of socialist thing. Reference to some kind of socialist thing. So we're like, shit, so what do? We had a book in the studio of, I don't know how this book ended up there, but it had all old pieces of artwork and historical artifacts in it. So what we decided to do was to flick through the book. Somebody would shout stop. The finger would be on the page, and whatever was on the page would be the name of the band. So we did that, and what was on the page was this, an old Egyptian hieroglyph with somebody pointing to the sky and a comet coming towards the Earth, and the English translation of that was the SOLARSTONE.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
So that was where the name came from.
I just assumed it was really something deep and meaningful and to do with trance, because it's quite a good name.
That was deep
trance.
and meaningful. So it was SOLARSTONE, 2 words, and then when there were 3 of us originally, and when it became just me, I merged the 2 words into one.
Yeah. Wow. And it's stuck.
So that was it, yeah. So it's been 25 years now.
So just imagine, you could be coming here with being called Space Kittens still.
Yeah. The Space Kittens.
Do you think you would have had the career that you had with the name like Space Kittens?
I don't know. Sometimes I do struggle with the name. Sometimes I think, I'm 50 now, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do think SOLARSTONE, I kind of wish I used my own name, but then my own name is kind of a bit crap. Richard Mowatt, you know. If you're at an event or something and they go, and now it's Hardwell, you know, and now it's Richard Mowatt. It's very clunky.
Yeah.
Clunky.
He's just finished his courier run. He's popped in to do a DJ set. Richard Mowatt.
Yes.
So how was the flight over? Sorry about the airport.
The airport. What was wrong with the airport?
It's crap. long lines. It takes at least an hour to get through.
There was a long walk to the car rental, but I don't think we had a problem getting in. Really? No, it was fine. We came in on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right. Today is Friday. Yeah. For anybody watching this. We came in on Tuesday, and it's been nice. We went up to Waihi Beach for a couple of days.
Yep.
Nice.
Which is beautiful. Went in the sea.
I like when people are here from the UK and they go up to Waihi and we say down to Waihi.
We did go down to Waihi.
Down to Waihi.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going up from tomorrow for a few days, but I'm not sure where. My wife will tell you.
So you've been to New Zealand before, right? But you haven't actually played in New Zealand before.
I've only been here once. We came here before COVID. Yeah, we came here. We were in Australia. We just came here just as tourists.
Yep.
And we really, really loved it.
Mm. Yeah, I think when people come from somewhere like Australia or Europe and they come to New Zealand, it is very different. It's obviously there's not much here, but it is beautiful landscape. It's a beautiful place to come.
It's not Australia.
It's not Australia. I've just come back from the Gold Coast and I was surprised how, like, I hadn't been there for like 10 years and I was surprised how much more there was there, you know, than it is here. And I quite like living here just because it's, you know, it's quieter and it's a good place to grow up. And
this is the first time we've been into Auckland. We flew in last time and drove straight out, didn't we? But we found that it was very much, it seemed like it was kind of like 20 years ago.
Pretty much.
You know? But we've seen more of it now. And the place we're staying, what's the place we're staying called? Something Brits?
Oh, the Brits.
Yeah.
The Brits down on High Street.
Brit. Britomart.
Oh, Britomart.
Oh,
yes.
Britomart.
Yeah.
It's really, really contemporary and beautiful.
Yeah.
I went for the dinner the other day at Kingy. It's downstairs it's a seafood-based restaurant just at the base. It's very good. Highly recommend it.
They've just developed that bit, haven't they, in Britomart?
Yes.
Are they sponsoring this show?
They should do.
Well, we're going for it.
If you're out there listening. So anyway, going back to coming to New Zealand. So this time you decided to play, and what was behind the decision to come to New Zealand? And because the trance scene here is not as big as it has been other places.
No, I think what happened was we were coming to Australia anyway, and somebody posted on the post saying, "Come to New Zealand." I think that's what happened. And then Ramesh, I think it was Ramesh, who's one of the promoters of the event, saw it and thought, why don't we try and make this happen? You know, I've been to Australia so many times over the years. My radio show has been on Pulsar FM in Christchurch since the beginning. I mean, since it was Deep Blue Radio 15 years ago. So, you know, I've had a presence here for 15 years. And I've been to Australia many, many times over the years, but never made it to New Zealand. But I'm really, really happy that they made this happen.
Yeah. We're delighted to have you here. There's no doubt about it. It's not often that we get like big trance DJs and producers coming to New Zealand.
Well, hopefully this will be the beginning of like a resurgence, because there is, you know, there's something bubbling away there with trance. I think it's been 20 years now, so you know these things go in cycles.
Yeah. We had that conversation a couple of weeks ago. It feels like now's the time for it to come back a bit.
Yeah, I think so. We need to breed in some of the new blood, you know, get some of the younger generation into listening to trance. I tell you what, a great step is the fact that you went on and did the morning show at George, just to introduce it to some of the young people. I mean, the tendency for them is to go into drum and bass. That's the thing here. There does seem to be a sort of an age where, you know, sort of kind of 20 to 30 are drum and bass, and then from 30 upwards are, you know, house techno and then trance, just because it's kind of been ingrained in them from, you know, previous years or previous decades. But yeah, I mean, it's good to get some exposure here for sure.
I think it's definitely time for they do say it goes in cycles, don't they? There is this 20-year thing, and we had this amazing thing in the early 2000s with trance, and kids nowadays, they probably have vague memories of their parents playing it. But there is, you know, the scene is so healthy. There's so many new producers and there's so many great artists, and there's, you know, the trance scene is kind of invigorating itself, it seems, at the moment. And we've got a situation where artists from other genres are now using trancey elements in their tracks, and they're actually stating the fact almost as if it was something cool, because trance has been, you know, uncool for such a long time. And now I'm getting sent promos of tracks from techno artists and techno labels saying, and this has got some really cool trancey elements in. And I'm looking at it going, hang on a minute. What do you mean? This is a cool thing.
Yeah.
Does that make you maybe shift slightly occasionally to a more harder sound, like, you know, going along to the techno genre that's got the trancey riffs in it?
Not me, no. I mean, I've always just done my own thing, really. I'm kind of aware of what else is happening. But musically, I definitely don't follow at all. I've always just, that's the pleasure I get from making music, is doing what I want to do. I take my influences from probably outside of electronic music. But when I produce music, I just produce the music I want to make, but I'm aware of what other people are doing. And I do play this kind of stuff in my sets, maybe slightly more techno influences. And when it comes to getting remixes done of my tracks, that always is... you always try to reflect what's happening in the scene, in music. Like we have a Martin de Jong remix coming out of Solar Coaster as part of the Armada Music 20-year anniversary. Is it 20 or 25? It's 20. That's quite a techno trance thing. We've got a remix from Dimension and DJ Nano of 7 Cities, which no one's heard yet, which is like 122 BPM.
Wow.
It's like 122 BPM, sort of like techno. It's really hard to describe it, really, but it's also very melodic.
Yeah.
And then we've got this Hanan Catania remix of 7 Cities coming out.
Oh, wow.
In a few weeks' time as well. And that's like 120 BPM progressive house.
Yeah.
So it's always important to reflect what's cool in electronic music as far as the remixes go.
Yeah.
But for my own productions, I just do my own thing. And you know.
As you've mentioned 7 Cities, let's talk 7 Cities. Probably the track most people know you for.
Definitely.
And it's the track that introduced SOLARSTONE to me. I love 7 Cities. It's one of my favourite all-time tunes. And I have to say this is that it's the tune that my wife walked down the aisle to during our wedding.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow, oh my God. Which mix?
It was the orchestral mix, because I tried to get along with the Away with the Atlantis one, but she wouldn't have any of it. But
You don't want it.
No. But it was an orchestral mix of 7 cities. And I said to her, look, this track means an awful lot to me. How do you feel about, walking?
She probably never heard it before.
Well, no, she wouldn't. No, she had heard it because I play it an awful lot, but it's more that because I've been a clubber since like mid-90s.
That's amazing. Honestly, that really means a lot to me to hear.
I thought you were probably going to say, yeah, a lot of people say that to me.
No, not at all. I mean, it's nicer for it to be a wedding than a funeral.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But so that was that. I mean, that was one of the obviously highlights of my life, to get married and to have that tune play at my wedding was awesome.
Wow.
The other tune we had was Signor Ross.
Sigur Rós?
Yeah, Sigur Rós, yeah.
Which one?
The one that they're most famous for. Hoppy Poller?
Poppy
Holler. Poppy Holler, that's the one. Yeah, because I think Chicane did a remix and he called it the other way around.
You didn't remark on my impression then? What? Sigur Rós?
Oh, no, sorry.
That was amazing. So why trance, though? What was it about trance how did you fall into that category?
Oh, that's a very good question. If I think about the music that I listened to as a kid, my mum she played artists like ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, Genesis, Supertramp. It was all quite sort of dramatic, the music, very melodic and quite dramatic.
Dramatic 80s
and very
synths.
big productions as well.
Yeah.
So I was always into and then I got into bands like Pet Shop Boys and Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Trevor Horn production. So it was always quite dramatic and very precise, very melodic. And the music I always liked, it was always kind of like that. And so when house music, when I first discovered house music in 87, 88, I liked it. But I liked the precision of it. I liked how tight everything was. I was never a fan of rave music. It was too sloppy. I really liked, house music and acid house because it was also precise. And then I became I was like in an indie band for a while, and then I became a body piercer. And I met I know it's a bit of a strange one, but
I did not expect that to go down that way.
No. I was in an indie band, so I was into like indie dance and Pop Will Eat Itself and Ned's Atomic Dustbin and Scratch and EMF and people like that. And then I was kind of in that scene. I was kind of bringing influences from like I like dance music, but then I became a body piercer. And the reason I say that is because my body piercing studio was on the same floor as a gay brothel. And I became...
Did you swap clients?
How many Prince Alberts?
Yeah. I think we probably did, yeah. But I became friends with the guys there, and they said to me, they started taking me out clubbing.
Oh, yeah.
And I started going to gay clubs, and which is where I heard trance, like early trance. Right. And when I heard early trance, I was hooked. The wonderful arpeggiated bass lines, the lovely melodies, the great big chords and stuff, and that's got sucked me into it, no pun intended.
Yeah. Where was this?
This is in Birmingham in the UK.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's how I got into trance, and then I got into people like Sasha and Digweed and the early Renaissance albums, and a lot of those contained a lot of early trance records. And that was it for me. That was the kind of music I wanted to make, so I graduated away from the indie dance I was doing and started making acid disco as the Space Kittens, and then trance, and that is it. It's what I like to produce. I mean, I've produced other stuff too. I've dipped my sort of toes into other pools, I suppose, but trance is it for me. I just love the drama of it and the melodies and the arrangements and
it's cinematic in its way, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. It's cinematic.
No, people call it the modern classical music.
I think there's a lot to be said. I think Paul Oakenfold originally described it as that. It's the similarities between the two. I mean, you can, sometimes in my sets, I'll drop into a breakdown of a track and then sort of segue into an excerpt from a classical piece and then bring the trance track back, like Oki did with the Goa mix.
Yep.
Back then, he's the guy who started it all. I think they've definitely got a lot in common.
Yep.
It's funny, isn't it? Because trance is like it's considered so uncool for such a long time, and yet it's probably one of the most valid types of electronic music if you're into melody and music.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because it is so emotive and uplifting that people tend to not rebel, but kind of think the opposite, because a lot of people
hate feeling good.
Yeah, exactly. People like to hear something a bit darker, hark back to sort of like
the melancholy.
Yeah, exactly. Like the grunge, the goth.
Trance is like an escape from reality, right?
Yeah.
Other types of electronic music reflect reality.
Yeah.
I mean, drum and bass, techno. I mean, life is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And day-to-day life can be shit. And so you want to listen to something that makes you feel like, fuck 'em, But then trance is an escape, isn't it? It's like, God, trance is like how we wish life actually was.
Yeah, exactly. Your particular sound, and going back to Seven Cities, I remember you saying on your radio show a couple of weeks ago, is that chord sound that you have in Seven Cities is very much your own sound that you've kind of got a way of producing, and that's what you're recognised as.
Yeah.
It's almost like I likened it to kind of like the Colonel's secret recipe for KFC. Without obviously giving the game away, how did you sort of come about producing that, or come about with that sound?
That particular sound that I use in Seven Cities on Solar Coaster and all the rest of it.
Exactly.
That the actual sound itself, it's a combination of a particular synth with a particular effect that I just stumbled across. And I remember when I was working on I've been working on this idea for ages and ages, and Andy, who I used to work with, had been away, and he came into the studio, and I'd just come up with this idea, and I was playing this melody on the synth, playing the chords on the one hand, and Andy came in, and he was like, "What's this?" It's just something I come up with. He's like, "This is..."
Yeah. And
that sound, that combination of that effect and that synth, I think I came up with it for that track, and I realised that it was a unique sound. And so I've kept it for myself.
Did you think it would have the longevity that it has? I mean, it's constantly been remixed, Seven Cities.
Seven Cities?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it was... I think it's a great record, but I think it's also... Do you know what? I had a conversation with Nick Muir, Nick Muir of Bedrock, on email a few weeks ago, because I'd never met him before, and we got talking because he did a remix for my label. And I sent him a message saying... I just want to let you know that For What You Dream Of by Bedrock is one of my all-time favourite records. I think that's an amazing. And he came back with his answer, and he said, I think it was a lot to do with the time we released it, and we were just really lucky. And I always say that with Seven Cities. It was not really the track; it's more about when we released it. But I think For What You Dream Of by Bedrock is a bloody good record, regardless of the timing of it and all the rest of it. So I always kind of brush it off with Seven Cities. It's more about time. But
that was played in Trainspotting, wasn't it? That track.
For What You Dream Of.
Yeah. Wasn't that the track when they go to the club towards the end of the film?
Such a record, isn't it?
And it's on.
You know the one.
Yeah. It's on Paul Oakenfold's Global Underground. The first one he did.
Such a good track.
It's such a good track because it's got this bit where it kicks in. Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about how the life. I think that's the thing with Seven Cities. It hasn't actually been that remix as much as people think.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of bootlegs, but the official remix releases, there have not been many. I mean, it originally came out in 1999, then you had the Armin remix in 2002, 2003, and then it was years before it was remixed. But I do encourage remixes of it because I need to recoup the advance I got when I sold the rights to Armada.
All right. There's some royalties missing somewhere.
And do you still play in your sets?
Pretty much every set.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to have a new mix.
Yeah.
I love the track. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, it's like Darude with Sandstorm.
Yeah.
It's... Why would you not play it?
Yeah, I feel the same way about Gangnam Style.
That's another one I always play.
Can't wait. We'll time that in.
I produced that record, right? I'm like, he says,
really?
Sitting on his £1 billion seat.
That'd be amazing. So tonight you are playing at the Mothership.
It's an open to close, 9 till 3.
Yep, 9 till 3. Wow.
How do you approach the all-nighters playing all night?
I make sure there's a toilet nearby the booth. Sorry, excuse me. It's an opportunity to play stuff across the board, right? It's like, if you go to a well-programmed club night, you start off with the deeper stuff and you build it up to the harder stuff, and it's just you just do that but yourself.
Yeah.
And I've always produced stuff and played music that's right across the spectrum of electronic music. You know, I love the deep progressive stuff. I love the banging 140 stuff. So you just get to take people on a journey.
Yeah. No, it must be nice. Yeah, where you basically curating the whole night.
Yeah.
So when you play some big festivals or a club where there's quite a few people on, and you're stuck at 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning,
That's a different
and
thing,
you have to get in there and start hammering it out.
Yeah.
Is that just a sort of, I've just got to get all my big records and
That is it, yeah. Festivals is different.
Yeah.
People just want to hear the hits. They don't want to be educated. They just want to hear the hits. And that's what you're there for.
Yeah, sure.
I just did Ultra in Melbourne, where I would have done that exact thing, except if it was absolutely pissing down with rain and most of the people went home. But I still played an hour of hits.
Yeah.
Do you get unusual requests even when you're DJing? Even though you're SOLARSTONE, you're DJing, people should respect what you play?
Not very often. No, you only do that if people wander in. You know, if you're doing an event and there's people are like, they just turn up and they buy a ticket on the door and they come in and you go, have you got the new Justin Bieber? Mate, it's Sandy's birthday today. Can you play the new Justin Bieber and say happy 21st? And then when you go, it's not that kind of thing, they go, what an arrogant prick. What's your name again? Solar Dick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the days of those are over. But this being New Zealand, you might get a few wandering in, going, "Oh yeah, what's this? It was
Can you
drum
play
bass."
Sandstorm, mate?
Yeah.
No problem. Shower me with notes.
That theme from Blade. That'd be great. So you're only playing at Mothership in New Zealand? You doing anything else here?
No, that's it. We're doing that in New Zealand, and then we're having a few days holiday. We're actually going to take a few days off next week.
Yeah.
And aren't we, darling? Yeah. My wife is 6 months pregnant. So we're...
Oh, really? Congratulations.
This is our baby moon. This is going to be our last trip, just the two of us, for a while. So
Nice.
we want to really enjoy it. It's just only a couple of days. Am I allowed to say? I've announced it now, haven't I?
This is live too, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're going to go up north for a few days. I'm not sure where, though. And then and she flies home. I go off to Vietnam for a couple of gigs there. And then we've actually going to have been away for 5 weeks, which is the longest we've ever been away for.
So do you like when you sort of tour like this, is this something you kind of embrace once a year, one of those sort of like long tours, or you sort of intermittently going? Because, I mean, you travel around the world, right?
Yeah, we've changed the way we do things after COVID. Before COVID, it was really punishing. I mean, I would, fly to LA for a gig and then go home, and going away on the Friday, coming back on the Monday, doing that like 30 hours on a plane. It's really too much. And when COVID happened, it was a bit of a wake up call.
Yeah.
The whole lockdown thing. And I thought, why am I spending so much of my time away? So Paula and my wife, she's also my booking agent, we sat down and we decided to just change the way we do things. So what we do now is, I still do the weekend shows, but if I'm going to go to America or something, or to Asia, we'll sit down and go, right, we're going to do it over these 2 or 3 weekends. We'll get in touch with the promoters and say, this is when we're going to be there. Let's do the tour. And just do it. Go for 2 or 3 weeks and come home.
Yeah.
It makes much more sense, because it really is exhausting. It's a killer to do it every weekend.
I mean, how do you adjust? I always think it's extraordinary how DJs, they bounce from country to country through different time zones then play 3-4 hour sets, and then you're off again. How do you deal with that?
You just have to deal with it. You just have to do it. You stay on UK time. But sometimes, it can be a real killer, because say if I'm playing on a Friday night in LA, if I leave the UK on the Friday morning, then I fly to LA, I go back in time by like 7 or 8 hours. If I might land at 6 p.m. or I might land at, say, 4 p.m. LA time, which is 4 in the morning for me, and I haven't had any sleep. Then I go to the hotel. You try to get some sleep, but you can't sleep. And then you're getting picked up at like 9 to go to the club. So it's like staying up all night, going on at 10 in the morning, having had no sleep, and then being expected to...
Yeah.
So you just have to do it.
Yeah. And then straight after
Then you go back to the airport and go home.
Yeah.
Sometimes you literally go back to the hotel, get your bag, and you go back home.
And it must take a bit of a toll on your mental health there.
Oh, everything physically. You know, it's completely. But that's part of the job, man.
Have you got any systems in place or lifestyle choices to try and maintain?
Really bad drug habit. Massive drug habit. No, I don't know. I just. I've actually only started exercising properly recently because I started suffering from like sciatica, which is really, really pissing me off. So I started looking after myself a bit more now and exercising, and it's really, really helped. I mean, Paula really looks after me. She makes sure that we eat properly and, you know, try to get enough sleep and stuff and try and. The thing is, though, you choose to do this. I'm not complaining about it.
No, of course not.
You know, we choose this life. The thing is, I think a lot of people in my position, we never set out for the DJ life. We were producers. You know, I wanted to be a songwriter and a producer and make music. But then, at some point, like 15 or so years ago, with the invention of MP3s and the internet, the arse dropped out of the music industry, and you couldn't make a living from releasing music anymore. You literally couldn't pay the bills, so you had to do something else. And obviously, people wanted me to play in clubs, so that's why I started doing it.
Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, obviously Redlining does have a theme of talking about the pandemic through it. So when the pandemic hit, how did you, when it first started kicking off, how did you react? What did you think was happening? Did you think it was going to have the impact it had?
I remember the first few weeks I thought was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was so peaceful and quiet in the village. We live in a little village by a canal, and it was so quiet, and, you know, the birds all came back into the garden, and it was just lovely. And I thought, oh God, it was almost like everyone was taking like apart from the people who were, you know, being negatively impacted by it health-wise and the rest of it. And it was really hard financially, but it was almost like we were going back to pre-industrial times, wasn't it?
Yeah, the air cleared. You know, I remember like looking at Auckland, the air quality cleared, you know, and the oxygen in the environment just went up like, it was just like 20-30%.
It was like a Sunday from when I was a kid every day. It was really lovely. Obviously, we were, you know, completely. We went to zero in terms of income. But that's why I started doing the morning show, because I had to keep my hand in and keep in touch with the fans. But I mean, it was. I think for everybody, the whole thing was a blessing and a curse, wasn't it? It made us all realise what we had, but it also made us realise what we were missing as well.
And then when you did start going back to gigging, how did you change from before? Because
we just set out, we decided that we were going to do it differently. It was tough though. I mean, oh my God, I remember in between the two lockdowns, I did this gig in Prague. We went there, didn't we? And I was walking towards the club, and it was just empty. The city centre was empty, and I was thinking, oh, they must all be in the club, you know. And we went in, and I think, what, do we have 50 people in there?
Oh, wow.
Poor, she thinks I'm exaggerating. It must have been about 100. But this club, it was, what's the name of the club? In Epic in Prague, and it's always packed at Epic. And to be playing in this club to like an empty dance floor, and it was really quite, oh God, is this it? And we started making all these plans about doing online events and stuff like that. But then, you know, thank God it's kind of come back around. Unfortunately, so many clubs have gone now. So many clubs have closed, and I think there's been a lot of decisions made by councils and stuff to close clubs where previously they were fighting against it, but now, you know, a lot of residents have taken it as an opportunity to get the clubs closed, and so it's a real shame. I think we've lost something like 20% of our clubs in the UK.
Do you see a change in clubbers' attitudes when you play? Do you see attendances dropping off, or
things are starting to come back now? The thing is, I don't really do much in the UK. My gigs are kind of very spread out around the world, so I couldn't really tell you how it changed. You really need to speak to someone like Dave Pearce.
Oh yeah,
because he plays a lot of smaller events and stuff, and he would probably be able to tell you how different it is. For me, we've done sold out shows on this tour. And, you know, it's like with trance, if you can get 300 people into a club pre-COVID or post-COVID, you're doing all right.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's fine. It's good.
I'll tell you one thing that does concern me a little bit is a lot of the younger generation who, at that point in their lives, would have started clubbing. they didn't. You know, a lot of the younger people, like my son's age, 17, 18 years old, at the point where they would started going out, they've actually been online with their mates and probably kind of got used to that. So I do worry a bit that some young people have become a bit institutionalized is probably the wrong word, but what word would you use?
It's a different social structure for that particular half a generation, I guess.
I think when I was that age, all I wanted to do was go out. And just go out to the party Friday, Saturday nights. For me,
but even before the pandemic, I mean, a lot of kids were spending too much time on devices and communicating, you know, with the internet, and that just solidified it really strongly. And the same for like education as well. There's going to be a bit of a dip in education or the type of education they've been receiving.
Yeah, I mean, my son, he did his exams during COVID.
Oh, well,
right.
You know, his GCSEs, that's what we call them in the UK. And he's just gone to college now, but the last 2 years of his education, where most of it was spent at home. Wow. I mean, that is weird.
Yeah.
And now they just use ChatGPT. It's just changing everything.
That old chestnut. Have you seen that thing where they, what did somebody do recently? They made a track with, oh God, what was it now?
Was it a song or an interview?
There was a song. Somebody made a song recently with...
Was that with hip-hop artist?
Yeah. What was it? Drake and the Weeknd.
That's
Yeah,
right.
somebody made a Drake and the Weeknd track
Yeah.
using AI. I mean, that is like, what?
I heard that, it was horrendous. You could sort of tell, but also... If you listen to that sort of thing, you go, I can sort of tell that this is AI, but then you think to yourself, this is the worst it's going to be. It's just going to get better.
It's just going to get better. Exactly.
I remember the first thing I heard like this was, it was a couple of years ago, they were talking about AI making music, and they fed all of our, you know, the Aha, the band.
Yep.
They fed all the Aha stuff into this program, and they got it to make a track that was like Aha. And it kind of sort of, and it sort of sounded like, it had sort of like the drums from... Take on me. And they had Morton, a voice that sounded a bit like Morton Harker, but there were no words really. And I was thinking, you know, God, this is kind of a bit weird. It made me feel uncomfortable and a bit sick. And now we're 2 years later and it's come on so much, and you're thinking,
it's only been 5 months. I reckon it's about 5 months since everyone just started fiddling away with, look, I can do a ChatGPT, tell it what it says and it comes up, type something in and it'll give you the answer. And now it's like, type something in, it gives you the whole, like, you know, War and Peace. It's weird.
I don't know how I feel about it, man. I don't like it. I don't like it when people, this one guy I know, he's always sending me articles about AI. I'm like, I don't really want to know this, you know, I'd rather pretend it wasn't happening.
I got legitimately sort of mildly depressed not long ago thinking about it, because everything I do for a job, voice acting, shooting, filming, and writing scripts and all that sort of stuff, almost all of those are replaceable by an AI. So, I try not to think about that.
You know, the problem is we're only about 2-3 years away from Terminator.
Pretty much.
This guy I was talking about, he said to me that the most worrying thing is coding. He said that the first people to go are going to be the coders, because that's the first thing that AI is going to be able to do as well as people. So, but my son wants to be a coder.
Right. Shit. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. The irony is they created all of this stuff to make our lives easier. Let's create artificial intelligence to make human lives easier, and then what are humans going to do if they've got nothing to do? Well, they'll be creative. They'll have time to be creative, and it's like, but what if AI is creating everything?
It's basically created so like old people can moan about it.
Pretty much. Like us.
When you say old,
I mean me, obviously.
What defines old? There's this thing. I remember reading about this thing about the basic minimum income. They were talking about introducing this thing where because there were not going to be enough jobs for everybody. You know, a lot of the sort of the jobs that will be replaced by AI. So governments are going to introduce this basic minimum income, so everyone can basically live and be alive without having to work. So what are we going to end up with? It's going to be like Job Club for everyone.
Everyone's in the dole queue every week. The thing I don't like about that is we start giving people a basic minimum wage, prices of everything's just go up. Because everyone's getting money. Everyone's got money now. It's just anyway.
They'll just spend it on TVs.
Pretty much. lying back, taking copious amounts of drugs, listening to trance music,
Getting fat.
getting fat.
So no change to now, then.
No change. It's pretty much the same. We'll all look like Americans. What do you do? Speaking of Americans, I don't know if this is going to. I don't know. That's a worst segue ever. What has been when you travel around the world and you do gigs around the place? What are the most responsive cultures and countries that you go to trance?
I don't think that's really. I can't really answer that because everyone. If you play at a trance event, it's full of people who love trance.
Yeah.
So they're always going to be responsive to trance.
True. Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
It's different. People do respond differently in different places. Like in Ireland or Scotland, they take huge amounts of drugs and they like it really hard and they get very, very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
In other countries, they are more kind of chilled out. I mean, what's that place where they sit on the floor during the breakdowns?
What?
Where? In South America.
Oh, really?
When you have a breakdown, sometimes they'll sit on the floor and then as the track comes back and they'll all jump up.
So do you have the tendency to go, I wonder how long I can make them sit on the floor? So I just mix a few breakdowns together.
I never forget the first time it happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
Did I do something wrong?
Yes. It was like that. What have I done? Oh my God. And then they jumped and I was like, hey, this is a special thing they've just invented now, just for me.
I think I'd be like tempted just to tease them a little bit. So how many times I get them to stand up and sit down?
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's
they
cool.
start getting it. Oh no.
Exactly. It's come back. No, it's not. Play down again. One thing I'm interested about talking to you about actually is your vocals.
God.
When did you decide to start singing? Now, I believe was your first vocal track Late Summerfield?
It was either Late Summerfield or You Write the Rules, which is a Young Parisians track.
Oh, yeah. Did you just decide, well, I fancy giving this a go, or did your vocalist let you down? You just got onto it, or?
I did do something when I was working with Andy and Sam before we did The Calling. There was something that I wanted to use a sample from Martin Gore of Depeche Mode.
Oh, yep.
And I was saying I wanted to go like this, and I sang the thing, and Sam or Andy went, "Oh, you can sing. You should actually sing it." So I sang it, but then we didn't end up using it, and the track didn't even get released. With Late Summer Fields, Alucard, I had this track from Alucard, this instrumental, and I just thought it really, really needs a vocal over it. And I'd written some lyrics, and I just sang them over the top. I don't know. It's funny because I've been singing on tracks occasionally for about 20 years now, but it's only recently I've actually become comfortable with it.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
You know, Paula would say you should sing. That's my wife. You should sing a bit more. But I always feel quite self-conscious. I always think my lyrics are shit. But then when I work with somebody else and they write lyrics, and I think, those lyrics are good, but I could write those. Yeah, it's this confidence thing. But on the latest single, on The Vision, I used a sample from Simon and Garfunkel, Sounds of Silence. And I knew I was never going to clear it, so I decided to just re-sing it myself and reference them in the label copy.
Yeah, that's okay. Is it that works?
Well, see, we're not pretending or anything. It was literally the vision was planted in my brain, and I just used that and referenced them in the label copy. If they don't like it, we can always take it down. Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, it's a great track. I have to say, Late Summer Fields is one of my favourites as well.
Thank you.
I do think the vocal on that is beautiful.
Thank you. It's funny that, because literally that track, I had no melody for those lyrics. I wrote the lyrics and then I queued up the track and I put on the headphones and the mic and I literally just sang it how it came into my head.
Yeah. Oh, well, it works.
Yeah. And it was one take and that was it. I didn't re-record anything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's weird, isn't it? That?
Yeah.
It's weird because that's never happened since.
So then when you sort of produce more music now, do you occasionally go, right, well, I'm going to produce a vocal and I'm going to sing on it now?
No, it's not that. It's not that blasé at all. I mean, I did Shards from the Blue album, and that is coming out. There's a new mix of that by Lost Legend, which is coming out on this Friday. But I haven't done anything else since apart from Vision. But talking of Alucard, he's actually got a new album coming out on the 28th.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, on Electronic Architecture, one of my labels.
Oh, nice. I'll look at
He sent me something a couple of years ago, which I used on Electronic Architecture for Midway, and then he produced a whole album, and this album is just wonderful. It's called Star Rider. And the next single is called Elementary, which is coming out at the beginning of May, and there's a remix from RNX of that. and it's wonderful track.
Oh, excellent. We'll definitely look out for that one, for sure. So you also run your label.
Several labels.
Yeah. The whole pure trance thing, when that came out around, what was it, 2000?
It's 10 years.
Yeah, 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that this was brought out of wanting to sort of hark back to that original trance sound, or try and keep the trance sound as you believe it should be.
Not as I believe it should be, but it was at that point, trance. Most of the music I was getting sent was all mixed of different genres. This trance thing was very big at the time, trance mixed with house.
Yep.
And
I've not heard it called trance.
Trance, yeah.
Trance. What an awful name.
Yeah.
Trance.
And it was really kind of, that was, the trance chart on Beatport at the time was kind of dominated by music which was trance mixed with other things, and people weren't really, there was a few artists who were, but most artists were moving away from trance, and I really felt that it was kind of like, I really kind of miss trance, Did
that trance kind of slowed down around that time? Would that be the kind of crossover or what became EDM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really, like dubstep was really big, and it really felt that trance as a genre was kind of running out of steam, and I was... Orchidia asked me to remix Unity, one of his best tracks. I was like, what kind of thing do you want? He was like, just do your thing. So I did this remix of it, and I was literally like, I just want to make something that is just trance. And I called it the Pure Mix. And when it came out, I was talking to Orchidia, and it was in Beatport chart, and we were saying, Orchidia said to me, there's that and maybe only a couple of other tracks that are actually trance in that chart. And so it became, SOLARSTONE Pure Mix became like a trending tag on Twitter, and it just grew from there. Really, it was really all it was I just wanted to make the music that I loved, which was no longer fashionable, and it just kind of grew slowly from there.
Did you find by doing that it did kind of kickstart the trance scene again?
I wouldn't want to take credit for that, but I know that the pure trance movement definitely was something to do with it. I think, looking back on it now, the first couple of years of it, I was getting a lot of emails from artists saying, I really love the fact that you've done this, and here's a track I've made that you might like. And so other artists started going back and thinking, I'm just going to make a trance track. I can just make a trance. I can send it to Rich for pure trance, and he might play it on the radio show. And I think it definitely... I think there was... The whole thing about the pure trance thing was that people around the world, millions and millions of people, love this music, and the scene was kind of eroding, and it was kind of being replaced by something else. But people still wanted this music. And all we did was kind of give it a name, really. And there was like this boulder there, and we just kind of pushed it over and rolled it down the hill. Yeah, I didn't do anything new with pure trance. It was literally just like a rallying cry for people saying, if you want this music to survive, you need to hold your hand up and say,
that's cool. Yeah,
I'm Spartacus.
So with the one, just sort of moving on from that, like, the trance scene is quite small in New Zealand. I was just curious to know, obviously, by having you here and having you play at the Mothership tonight is going to sort of push trance back into people's minds.
I really hope so.
I'm just wondering how we can then move forward and sort of go on from there, and instead of sort of having trance go back into its kind of shell, how can we push forward as a country and get more people introduced into trance?
Oh God, I don't know, man. It's your country. I don't know. It's if people love trance and they see a trance event, then they should buy a ticket and go to it. It's very easy to be passive when it comes to music. It's very easy to just download the latest album by whoever, but then when they come to town, not bother to buy a ticket or go to see them. You have to be. People have to kind of make an effort as well. It's not just down the artist to save the scene. People have to actually go out too.
Yeah, they've got to be proactive with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something like 1,500 people in the Auckland Trance Family Group on Facebook. Right. But we need to get 200 of them into the club tonight.
Yeah.
So, you have to actually go out and contribute to the scene. But I think, like you said, trance is a niche thing. It's a niche thing all over the world.
Yep.
I mean, trance is a tiny niche market of a niche market. It's never going to be like it was in '99, where we're filling arenas of 50,000 people. Nor should it be. I always remind myself that it is a niche thing, and I like that. And it's like a family, isn't it? Like the trance family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So everyone's kind of doing their bit to keep the scene healthy, and hopefully, if tonight goes okay, then I know they're bringing Jorn van Dijnhoven over in May, and then who knows after that? Just build it up slowly. People keep coming, and
nice one.
Well, it's definitely going to be a good night tonight. That's for sure.
I hope so.
Going to be fun, and I think we'll probably bring it to an end there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming in, and
Thanks very much.
You won't take responsibility for bringing trance back, but you're responsible for slowly killing dubstep, and for that I thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
T-shirts are available at Tuneware.
Fantastic. So, where can people find your music online? Where are the best places to look for you?
Well, I'm everywhere, obviously. SOLARSTONE or Pure Trance. The Pure Trance radio show, it comes out every Thursday. The podcast, it's obviously on all the usual channels. There's a new single out on Friday. Just search for SOLARSTONE or Pure Trance, and
beautiful.
You'll find my pretty face.
Nice. And lovely voice, we might add.
Yes.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much again for coming in. Good luck tonight, and enjoy the rest of your trip around beautiful New Zealand.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, pleasure.
No worries. Thanks, man. Awesome.
Cheers.
Nice one.
Cheers. Thank you.
Wicked.